Welcome to this edition of the Herbal Spot, where we welcome Dr. Kimberley King, who will share her novel ideas about diving into nature for health and even as an action against climate change. I want to welcome you, Kimberley, to the Herbal Spot, where we engage with our community, we engage with professionals like yourself to share with our public the interesting facets about this relationship between plants and people. So, welcome, Kimberley.
I am so happy and pleased and honored to be here with you, Dr. Peter, to support this most important work that you're doing to get biocultural education and plant knowledge into the public space. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. I'm going to read a snapshot of your biography, and then we're going to get straight into our very interesting discussion. Dr. Kimberley King, MBBS, is a holistic medicine practitioner who utilizes lifestyle medicine to help her clients. Lifestyle medicine utilizes behavioral change modalities to help clients move away from unhealthy habits and create lifestyles which promote better health and well-being. Dr. King is currently spearheading a push to utilize nature connection to promote health and routinely uses herbal remedies to treat her clients. She will be adding her knowledge and expertise to assist biocultural education and research program in research and development of traditional medicine products, which can be used to combat modern health problems like NCDs. Dr. King is also eager to help impart genuine respect for the land and plant knowledge to the future generations in an effort to ensure that both the health of the land and the people move in a more positive direction. I hope I did you justice, Kimberley.
Yes, I think you did.
It is very heartening to hear of the direction in which you're shifting your capacity. I know that you are being somewhat of a champion in this area, and I hope that as we discuss, we get a further inward look at how this has been a challenge to you and what successes you have reached so far. So, my first question, therefore, is related to that. How did you come to embark on this path, this journey, and who do you consider to be your inspiration?
Well, this journey has been somewhat serendipitous, I believe, as I have just been moving within the space of my natural inclinations. So while I was training to become a medical practitioner, the weight of the problem of non-communicable diseases weighed heavily on me, in that the suffering that I saw within the General Hospital here in Barbados was daunting. And as I moved along in my training and got to understand the etiology or the genesis of these conditions, I realized that they are completely avoidable, and in some early cases, reversible. So the level at which it is impacting the society was kind of, disheartening. As I moved then into my practice, I took an unconventional approach, and I registered as a general practitioner and moved into working within a naturopathic clinic here locally. As I was working with the naturopathic doctors there closely, I adopted some of their approaches, which not only included herbal remedies and nutritional supplements, but they also got a little bit more into the person themselves, what their lifestyle was, what they were actually doing. And so I started to become a little bit more involved in just dispensing advice, but more so getting into the why and how the person would have come to developing their issues. That segued into me moving more deeply into something called lifestyle medicine, which is a very recent branch of conventional medicine, like you would have said, that utilizes behavioral change to help combat NCDs, because we now know without a shadow of a doubt that these things are lifestyle related, and therefore they are preventable, changeable, if you just adopt some new habits and new approaches within your everyday life. So that approach I found was very effective and impactful. And I have stayed there in that space because most general practitioners don't have the time that is required to really affect behavioral change and impact persons' lives, because it's a type of conveyor belt approach to medicine where the person comes in with a problem, you diagnose the problem, you prescribe medication, and they go off. It's not much deeper than that. And it's not on the part of the doctors to say that they wouldn't necessarily want to go deeper. Sometimes they just don't have the time. Now, that is how I got into my branch of medicine. How I started to embark on incorporating nature was very serendipitous, I guess, again. I, as a medical practitioner here in Barbados, you can't really advertise your services. And I said, I keep to myself a lot. I was like, no, Kimberly, you need to get out there. You need to talk to people. You need to engage people in the community. And there was a call for volunteers at a local agro forestry project called Cocoa Hill Forest. They also do hiking, and it's a regenerative agricultural project. And so they were calling for volunteers. When I got to Cocoa Hill, Dr. Peter, it was absolutely beautiful and therapeutic. And I said, there must be some way to incorporate this space into my practice. So, as a scientist, I'm not out there to reinvent the wheel, and we as scientists build on knowledge that has put out by our fellow colleagues. And so I said, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. There must be some modality out there that is currently utilizing nature in a way to impact health. And so I happened upon, or I should say, I researched and found Shinrin Yuku. The direct English translation for that would be forest bathing. And I started to investigate how I can incorporate that into my programs.
I just wanted to interject a bit. You've given us quite a mouthful for thought. And this idea of embracing nature as a modality for health is what really excites me.
Yes.
I know you're going to tell us more. And so, you're saying that going to Cocoa Hill was pretty much a catalyst for you to begin thinking about the inclusion of forest bathing as a modality for self-care. So I know that you are working on building out your conceptualization of this as a medical intervention. So could you continue with your fascinating story?
Yes. So that obviously, I am very, what should I say, forthright and upfront. And so I approached the owner and the what should I say, the mastermind behind Cocoa Hill Forest, because Cocoa Hill Forest is an amazing space that is doing amazing things in the regenerative agricultural space. And I said, well, I would love to bring my clients here and start a kind of nature connection enterprise where we invite people into this space for health. Imagine he says, you know what? That is something I always envisioned this space to have. And so forest bathing was also in his original concept for the space. And so he gave me the go ahead to move in that direction and start to build out some sort of approach that we could then market or bring to the public, which was obviously exciting. From there, the space at that time was very geared towards obviously what it was envisioned for, which is an agroforestry project. And moving into the tourism space, it was also built out as a hiking trails. So it is 53 acres, I believe, and there's about 4 kilometers of hiking trails. However, the practice of forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku, which actually invites you to engage with nature in a different way by activating different senses. So it calls you to sit still, to slow down, listen to the birds, take in the smell of the leaves, and engage in a way which takes your mind more into a meditative therapeutic space. So there were no designated areas for that at Cocoa Hill. So as I was building out my idea, I engaged a number of volunteers. We call ourselves the Forest Bathing Crew. And we embarked on creating sit spots, which would be designated zones within Cocoa Hill Forest where we could engage in forest bathing. And so I've been doing that over last couple of months, and we're now at the stage where we can now invite participants to actively engage in forest bathing. And I am hoping to start capturing, like I said, I'm a scientist, so I'm hoping to start capturing some metrics to bolster this push in a direction where we could possibly use it as a modality to impact healthcare in Barbados.
Truly novel approach, and one that I support because we understand that being in a lush plant environment has the potential to impact on those metrics that indicate health. The sense of walking through nature alone puts us into a calm mood. And this is because of the oxygen-rich environment. I think that if more individuals appreciated the fact that our trees enrich our environment in this way, that we will have greater respect for the land and what it pushes forth in terms of our plant biomass. Further to that, we also know that plants are unique in their ability to biosynthesize natural agents that can also impact on health. And many of these are volatile. So that when we walk through the forest, we are being bathed, as you said, by nature's elements. And these elements can indeed impact on health. So the idea of using this as a modality that you can measure for impact is extremely exciting from my level. I'm happy that you gave us a perspective on Cocoa Hill and what it will offer in terms of the forest bathing platform. But we also have to look at the forest in terms of its impact or potential impact on the issues arising around climate change. I note that the owner director of Cocoa Hill, Mahmood Patel, who embraces, all of the rich ideas around nature and its value, will be speaking at the Conference of the Parties, COP28, for the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference. And I'm wondering, what is your perspective on the what is being offered at Cocoa Hill, including your forest bathing modality, as important as we respond to climate change? What is the value of this entire program?
Yes, Cocoa Hill is a very important, pivotal project happening here in Barbados. Um, as we have engaged in one another to build out this modality, myself and Mr. Patel have had many numerous discussions about his visions and what he's trying to achieve here with the Cocoa Hill project. So he told me when he acquired the land some 9 years ago that a portion of it was almost completely deforested and degraded. Of course, we know that here in Barbados, some estimates put deforestation at over 70-80% of the land was completely denuded of forest to grow sugarcane and other cash crops during our colonial era. So Cocoa Hill Forest, the area that we are working with, was not excluded from this deforestation. And so if you were to visit Cocoa Hill Forest, there is a section that was almost, well, I should say, not single-handedly, but with a few key players reforested and regenerated in such a beautiful way that supports this push for protecting biodiversity on the island. The other beautiful thing about Cocoa Hill Forest is that there's also a section which we believe is still primary forest, which would be close to when Barbados was first discovered, or when the natives would have been first here without having been touched by deforestation because of the lay and the geography, of the land. So Cocoa Hill Forest is an important player within this reforestation, protection of biodiversity space. Now, how forest bathing builds on that is that it brings in the community and it brings in the human element. Now, in our modern day times, we have moved very far from nature as a safe space, a comfortable space, as humans, as human beings, which I find is very sad, because nature is our home and we are nature in many respects. And so being removed from nature and this disconnection with nature has pushed nature in a space where we see it as something separate from ourselves. And so this separateness has also led to carelessness, a disregard for it as important, and definitely not in your everyday mind. And so there are some studies being done. I think the University of Derby in the UK has done some studies around this, about nature connectiveness engendering sustainable behaviors. And so because we are disconnected from nature, we do not regard it. And so we're less likely to engage in sustainable behavior practices and embrace the whole push for protection of nature spaces. So Shinrin Yuku is a definite modality to encourage and foster connectiveness with nature. And so we are hoping that it also pushes people to care more about sustainable practices and sustainable behaviors and support any push to combat climate change. So it's not only going to affect health positively, as you would have said quite correctly. The phytosigns are what the trees give off in terms of their volatile compounds is the modality in which it impacts our health, as well as looking at greening spaces. But this connectiveness also will help the push for sustainable practices within the community, within the individuals. I have seen it happen personally with our forest bathing crew. Of course, we have engaged in forest bathing, but we have been at Cocoa Hill actively building out these spaces almost every Saturday from the time I started. And one of my volunteers would have said, you know, it helps me to disconnect from the madness of the world. And I have seen in each and every one of them the improvement within their mindset. They're thinking differently about the way they eat. They're thinking differently about their practices at home with recycling. They are engaging with nature in a more, what should I say, genuine way. Last Saturday, we found actually like an earthworm, and one of the young ladies, we were repotting some plants. So we're doing beautification at this stage, and the earthworm dropped, and I said, like, pass it to me, and she picked it up and passed it to me, so I was able to put it back into the soil. And she said, like, when I first started here, I would have never done that. So it's becoming natural and innate to engage with nature, and I want to have those types of transformations happen with everyone who engage with the project as we move forward.
Yeah, beautifully described. For me, what is special is that holistic approach. As we demonstrate the importance for health and wellness, as you also said, we are inculcating behavioral change, and also in terms of our focus, the focus of our nonprofit is the conservation of the plant resource and the traditional knowledge that is embedded for general, values of food security and health. And having this novel approach support the overall appreciation of nature, of our plant resource, of the importance for health, certainly will enrich our public and will go towards the national targets that we have in terms of how Barbados is approaching responding to the challenges, including, of course, climate change. I am very excited about the rollout of this program. Could you share with our audience when do you think that you will begin to have your first public cohort? I know that there's a lot of activity happening at Cocoa Hill currently, but within your specific program, how soon do you think you will be able to roll out that first cohort?
We're pushing for a rollout in the first quarter of 2024. We have been having isolated events and what I would call orientation to forest bathing sessions, which is just introducing the public to the concept of forest bathing and inviting them to engage with nature in a different way than they would have before. Like I said, it's an active hiking trail. So people usually go there to hike, but they don't go there to sit down, take it in, meditate, breathe, drink tea, smell leaves. And so I'm just orienting the public to that type of engagement with nature. But a cohort of persons who are actively in the program, because the benefits of forest bathing is not going to be quite realized if you don't engage in a regular, systematic fashion and make it part of your routine, your habitual practices in life. That is where the real benefit comes. I think some of the research around forest bathing, specifically coming out of Japan, I think there was an increase in natural killer cells in your immune system. These killer cells are white blood cells, fight cancer cells, and are very pivotal in a number of immune processes within the body. And so the boost to those counts would have waned over, I think, a couple of weeks. I stand to be corrected, but I think 3 weeks or something like that. And so it is that repeated engagement with nature, this systematic approach to helping people make nature a priority in their lives, a necessity in their lives. We want to start that with earnest in the first quarter of the new year and start, like I said, collecting some metrics around how it is impacting people. So get some questionnaires, do some physical readings like blood pressure. Forest bathing is also indicated by the research to help reduce blood pressure. So and resting heart rates. So coming into the new year, we definitely want to have a cohort who is starting to bolster this initiative and find some real world evidence to help push it maybe as a modality in the green prescribing space, as we hope that it can possibly impact healthcare policy. We are also hoping to have some discussions with the University of West Indies to possibly do some testing of the phytoscience that might be present in our tropical climate, because a lot of the research obviously would have been done in Japan and more so within the temperate spaces with pine trees and such. Of course, we do not have pine trees, but we do have bay leaf and we have lemongrass and we have black sage and we have Barbados sage. We have a lot of different types of plants. And so I'm looking to engage with the university to possibly see how we could maybe capture what's happening here in the tropical landscape space. So some exciting things pushing off, I think, in the first quarter of 2024.
Extremely exciting. I'm trying to temper my excitement because, as you know, this is the progress that we anticipated as we began to engage our public across platforms regarding the importance of biocultural diversity. And this project really does exemplify the value that is trapped within our resource. And I am expressing kudos to you and your group for unearthing this value that is hidden from view, but you are bringing it really to the faces of our public. I am looking forward to us having a tea party where we look at that tea across the communal interface. I know that is a thematic that we recently had a focus on, but it really is going to be very exciting to have activities around this thematic. Again, congrats for being an innovator. I often, comment on the fact that Barbados, yes, has achieved a lot for its small economy, for its small size in terms of what it encompasses relative to, other destinations. But I think we are lagging in innovation, and I am really pleased to understand, where you're going with your project, and even more so to become part of the activity. So our short conversation is not enough, but we're going to close it here. And I look forward to having an updated conversation where you can share the advance of your project, including some of the metrics that you were able to obtain. So I'm offering you an opportunity then to invite the public to become part of this activity as we close our session on the Herbal Spot for this edition.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter, for having me in this space and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts and my grand hopes and dreams for incorporating nature into the medical space and being really maybe the heart and soul of the sustainable practice push, because if we don't engage the people, if we don't get them to care, then a lot of our initiatives will kind of fall on deaf ears and harden hearts. So hopefully this initiative can soften some hearts and free some minds and improve health and well-being, not only for the population, but for the planet. So thank you again for having me. And once we have that call in the new year, I hope to get an enthusiastic bunch of participants, so we can definitely push this initiative forward. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Wishing you all the best.